My name is Mia Karinke, and I'm the director of the Carbon-Free Healthy Schools program at Climate Jobs Illinois. And I have a couple slides to talk about what I do and how that works together with a lot of the environmental groups that are represented on this call. I know a lot of folks came here from Sierra Club, Prairie Rivers Network, all of the groups that helped to create this webinar and help get folks in the community excited about upgrading and decarbonizing our public schools. So I just want to take a minute to thank everybody who took the time to put this webinar together, and then also everybody on the call for taking a few minutes out of your day to talk about why it's important to invest in schools. And I have a couple slides here. Carolyn, if you could bring those up.
For sure. 1 second. And I think everyone is automatically muted, but I think there might be a few folks who might be on. If you can mute just in case, that way we don't have background noise. I will screen share now.
Awesome. Perfect. So there's a couple of housekeeping things. Like Carolyn said, if you could just keep yourselves muted, we have a really big group tonight. And additionally, we are going to be taking question and answer at the end of the session. So we're going to have a couple different speakers today. And just to make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk, if you have a question, just throw it in the chat. And we do have somebody kind of keeping an eye on the chat and sort of collecting questions and kind of looking for themes for things that people are asking. And we will answer those at the end as well. So if you think of something, just throw it in the chat and we'll definitely come back to it. So this is our Carbon-Free Healthy Schools Teach-In. We're calling it a teach-in because we are actually lucky enough to have a school district that has made some energy efficiency and solar upgrades already on the call. So next slide. We are really excited to have worked with all of these kind of environmental and labor and faith groups across the state. I'm here for Climate Jobs Illinois. We also have the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition, the Illinois Green Alliance, Action for the Climate Emergency, Faith in Place, Sierra Club, Midwest Renewable Energy Association, and Prairie Rivers Network. So as you can see, a lot of folks coming together, and then also a lot of great speakers that we wanted to bring to you today. So again, I just want to take a minute to thank everybody. Next slide. Okay, so this is kind of our agenda. I'm going to be your MC tonight, so I will do kind of transitions as we go through. So we're going to talk a little bit about why it's important to invest in carbon-free healthy schools, and that's a piece that I'm going to tackle. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the work that we've been doing with schools so far in Illinois. And then we're going to hear from Williamsfield Schools. We're going to hear from Superintendent Tim Farker and also some other folks from the school district about how they've been able to implement energy efficiency and also solar and electric vehicles in their school district. We'll hear from both of the big utilities in Illinois, ComEd and Ameren, about how your school can get a free energy efficiency audit. And then we'll wrap up with kind of a call to action and an opportunity for you to get involved and help your schools go green. And I also want to just apologize preemptively. My daughter's upstairs, so if you hear any background noise, that's like the future of the climate movement, I guess. So next slide. Okay, so about me and the work that I do, I'm really excited to be involved in this work and in this webinar, bringing together all of the environmental groups and the community groups that really know their schools. I work for a labor coalition called Climate Jobs Illinois. We're a coalition of 12 labor unions all across the state, whose members are teachers and bus drivers and folks who work in the trades and folks who work on renewable energy projects and nurses, just a huge spectrum of workers all across Illinois. And they all came together and recognized that with the climate emergency, we need to make sure that we're prioritizing families, we're prioritizing workers, and we're prioritizing that clean transition to a clean energy future in Illinois. So we work directly with school districts on the Carbon-Free Healthy Schools program to help them understand ways to invest in their community that's going to help their schools be greener and healthier and kind of better for the students. We also work really hard to make sure that as Illinois is transitioning towards clean energy, that we're really supporting low-income communities, middle-class communities, and we're really giving workers and communities the support that we need. I also want to just take a quick minute to recognize our Executive Director, Joe Duffy, who is on the phone. I don't know if he's going to be able to say anything, but just to know that Joe and I are both here as resources to help folks who have questions about clean energy or about public schools and decarbonizing. So that's just a little bit about us. I also want to just kind of set the stage with the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. We worked with a lot of the organizations on this call to help craft CEJA in a way that would be good for workers and good for communities and also good for the planet. So the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, or CEJA, is a huge climate bill on a national standard, right? Illinois is really leading because of this legislation. It's passed in 2021. And what it does is it helps us, set benchmarks and make progress towards a clean energy economy. And it does it in a way that really prioritizes environmental justice and community investments. So one of the pieces of that is the piece that I get to work on that has to do with public schools. So next slide. All right, and I see we're already getting some great questions in the chat that we will definitely address in this presentation and also at the end as well. So these are kind of the pillars of the program that I run, and it's really based on the legislation that was passed in CEJA. So if your school is thinking about how to decarbonize, they're thinking about how to make their schools healthier, these are some of the new state programs that are available for schools in Illinois because of this climate law. So the first pillar is solar incentives. There are brand new renewable energy credits, which are basically financial incentives for schools that are there to help make it more affordable and more accessible for schools to pursue renewable energy. The second piece is that every school district in ComEd and Ameren territory is entitled to a free energy audit. And we're going to hear from Olivia and also from Michael at ComEd and Ameren respectively about how those programs work. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but that's a really important piece that I just want to flag early for folks, is that to start that kind of decarbonization journey, you can actually get a free audit that will help give you that roadmap for what your school should be thinking about as far as infrastructure. And then electric school buses. Additionally, in the state of Illinois, because of this law that was passed, we also have incentives for electric school buses that will be coming from the utility companies. I know that's something that ComEd and Ameren are both working really hard on, and we're excited to see what they come up with in the next year or two here to support schools who want electric school buses. So next slide. And so these are the state incentives. There's also another slide in a minute about federal incentives if you're located in a state other than Illinois. But just looking at the state incentives, every school district in Illinois is eligible for the solar incentives, regardless of who your utility company is. There is priority for low income school districts and also environmental justice communities that have those school districts. So helping the schools that need the most help first. But any school district can get those incentives. Additionally, for the energy audits and the electric school buses, most school districts are getting their energy from ComEd or Ameren. If your school district gets their energy from a municipal utility or a co-op, they may not be eligible for these programs, but this does cover most of the school districts in the state. Next slide. And then I also want to touch on some of the federal programs that work really well with these state programs. And so what this means is that because we have this investment at the state level, and we also have some new programs from the federal government, it puts schools in Illinois in a really great place to invest in solar or think about energy efficiency and not have to spend a bunch of money on the front end doing it. So the first piece here that I really want to highlight that we're most excited about is the investment tax credit. This is a credit that big utility scale solar and wind developers have claimed for years, but it was never available to public schools or to other government entities because they don't file taxes. So what the federal government has done is they've changed the tax code as part of the Inflation Reduction Act. And there is a new provision that actually allows nonprofits and school districts and other government entities to claim the value of that tax credit on a direct pay basis. So they basically get a check from the IRS for up to 30% of the entire investment in solar. And then there's also bonus credits if your school district is located in a low income community or an energy community. And so what that means is that the federal government could actually cut you a check for 30 to 40% of the cost to invest in solar, which is a real game changer for schools and is something that's going to make it a lot easier for schools to move towards clean energy. Additionally, there is a federal grant available for public schools to pay for renewable energy or energy efficiency. That is run through the U.S. Department of Energy, and it's called the Renew America Schools Grant. And then a lot of you have probably seen that the US EPA is also running clean school bus rebates and potentially grants in the next fiscal year. And so that's another great opportunity that some school districts, including Williamsfield, which we'll hear from, have taken advantage of. Perfect. Okay. So I'm trying to keep my presentation short here, so we're getting kind of towards the end. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the benefits of school energy savings and why it's important, from a health standpoint, from a climate standpoint, but also from a fiscal standpoint to think about this. One of the figures that I thought was kind of shocking is that energy efficiency can actually reduce your school's energy costs by about 25%. So things like lighting, things like HVAC optimization, things like insulation, that kind of stuff can have a really significant impact on your energy bill, which will give you the funds to invest in other areas that your school may need to prioritize. And then additionally, solar power systems, depending on the location that you're in, depending on the price of energy, et cetera, they typically have a return of investment in about 10 years or less. And some of these new federal and state programs may actually reduce that. So you're making an investment that's going to take a little while to pay off, but those solar panels will be on your roof for 25 to 30 years. And so you'll start to see that accumulated savings, and it'll actually pay off the initial investment. Okay. So putting it into real terms, right? I think a lot of this is kind of theoretical and sort of like high level. If we talk about the average school district in Illinois, we did a study with the Illinois Economic Policy Institute out of the University of Illinois, and we found that the average school district in Illinois could save about $6 million if they invested in solar and energy efficiency over a 25-year period. So that long-term savings is going to be about $6 million, which is really significant. Okay. And then just additionally, right, it's not just money. There's also a lot of really important climate benefits associated with moving away from fossil fuels, transitioning to electric school buses. You're going to have better air quality in your classroom, which has been shown through academic studies to improve students' learning conditions. And then you're also investing in really great schools, high quality, modern schools for your community. And you're also saving that energy, right? You're saving that money, and that savings can be passed on to the taxpayer as well. The other really great thing about CEJA is that these programs are set up in a way to prioritize equity. And so we're making sure that the school districts that need the most help are getting help. So I think that's another really great thing about this program, is that it really takes into consideration local conditions. Okay, so these are just kind of, this is a snapshot of some of the schools. Sorry, that's my kid. Some of the schools that have invested in solar. This is a map of every school district in Illinois that has solar power, whether it's rooftop or ground mount or community solar. A lot of these are smaller scale educational arrays, but it also includes big investments, right? And so we're going to hear from Williamsfield about their solar project. I've also had the opportunity to go to Lake Park High School, which is kind of outside Chicago, to look at the huge rooftop installation that they have for solar. And then additionally in Huntley School District, they installed a massive ground mount project that actually supplies 80% of the district energy use. So these are schools that have done this, and all of the schools that I've talked to that have solar are happy to talk and share their experiences. And so that's part of what we're doing today, is sharing what Williamsfield has learned. Okay, this is the end of my spiel. This is just for some more information. If you're interested in learning about these programs, I'm always available to connect schools to grants. that we know of. We do a lot of education efforts to make sure that school district leaders feel informed and educated and that they can take advantage of these brand new programs. And so my job is literally just to help schools. So my information is up there. And then we also have a website with like a video and some information on how to access these programs. And then we're going to go ahead and just kind of go through our speakers, and I will hand it over to our first speaker in a second here. First, we're going to hear from Tim Farker, who's the superintendent of Williamsfield Schools in Williamsfield, Illinois. I think we'll also be able to hear from some more folks at the school district, which is exciting, just to hear about kind of the community-wide effort to invest in solar and energy efficiency. And then, sorry, I think somebody may have their unmuted. Perfect. Okay. We're also going to hear from Haj Young, who helps schools navigate investing in solar. He works at IEC powered by Future Green, which is affiliated with the Illinois Association of School Administrators. And then lastly, we're also going to hear from Olivia Youngblood, who works for Michael's Energy and ComEd on their public schools carbon-free assessment program. And then from Michael Pittman, who has the same job for schools in Ameren territory. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Tim. And I want to, again, just say thank you to all of our presenters today. We're really appreciative of the time that you've taken.
Okay, can you hear me okay, Mia? All right. So I'm Tim Forker. I'm the superintendent at Williamsfield Schools in Williamsfield, Illinois. I also teach health here, although I'm a very mediocre health teacher. I'm here with Lori Sechrist, who's our life science teacher, as well as our health science pathway lead. She wears multiple hats in the district. Also here with Mr. Eric Bell. He's our visual arts teacher. He's also a pathway lead and WEA president here at Williamsfield Schools. If you have questions for any of us, feel free to put them in the chat. Lori and Eric can answer questions in the chat kind of as we're going. And if you have questions specific for them, feel free to address them individually. But I'm going to go fairly fast, so my email address will be at the end. If you have additional questions, please let me know. It is nice to see there's a few friendly faces I saw on the call today. It's good to see Lyndall from River Trails. If you're close to River Trails, Lyndall's doing amazing work up there in a wide variety of areas, including electric buses and energy savings. Good to see Tracy Fox on the call. She really helped us get electric school buses in the Pekin and Peoria area. And Katie Glenn from the Siemens team has been an integral part of our project here at Williamsfield Schools. With that in mind, we're going to introduce you to the story of the Williamsfield Schools microgrid. There are a lot of components to it, but I think what you'll see is this project has been driven by our kids, and we're excited to fully implement. Next slide, please. This project the plans for it started in March 2014 in Miss Sechrist's ecology class. Our students designed a community microgrid as part of a class project and demonstrated different ways that we could build resiliency, not just on our campus, but within the community. And that started to spawn a variety of ideas that we've been working toward ever since. Next slide. As you can see, students got an opportunity in fall of 2015 to show their microgrid off to Secretary Arnie Duncan while he was here visiting for another reason, but we didn't pass up an opportunity to show off their work. Next slide. Again, I'm just walking you through our story. One thing I want to note is this is not a blueprint or a progression for a community. Everybody has their own needs and their own timeline, and the way the incentives sit right now, the opportunities that are out there, if we were starting from scratch at this point, the timeline would be accelerated dramatically. So don't think because we started with the idea in 2014 that it takes 9 years to fully implement. But in March 2018, we received our first electric school bus bid So we started conceptually working towards electrification at that time. We only received one quote for an electric model. It was a Bluebird bus for $400,000 at the time. At that point, we were solely looking at electric for the health and environmental benefits. Financially, there was no real reward or mechanism that enticed us. Next slide, please. In January 2019, so not much time had passed, we lost power and our pipes began to freeze. So we really started to look hard. We were going back at the STEM team's microgrid design and trying to figure out what type of components we could implement here to avoid similar type of circumstances. We did a little study and realized that from 2011 to 2014, our building experienced 11 outages with 2 lasting more than 7 hours. In the years since 2014, from 15 to 19, we experienced 20 outages with 6 lasting more than 7 hours. Now, I want to commend Ameren, Illinois, and the work that they've done to improve infrastructure and transmission in our area. But we're experiencing the same things that others are. When storms come through, they are more intense, and the opportunity for power loss just seems to intensify. So building resiliency became a goal. Next slide, please. We really started thinking seriously about solar. So in April 2019, this is Lexi and Carson, are 2 STEM team leads at that time. These are Lori's champions in 2019. They made a trip to Chicago to the Adjustable Block Program's Renewable Energy Credit Lottery. We had a solar project in the lottery that was awarded funding. And as we began to plan for the install, we had resiliency, overall resiliency in our mind, and we realized at that time we had already been thinking about school bus electrification. But a key component for us to realize was that our school buses sit motionless 92% of the calendar year. So we began to ask ourselves seriously if school bus electrification could fuel the resiliency we're after also, and utilizing school bus batteries as an energy asset. Next slide, please. In November 2019, we established the Bus to Grid initiative and really started to flesh out the idea of the microgrid and how it would work on campus in a similar fashion to what the kids had designed in 2014. So we started mapping things together. We were able to submit a grant application. We did not get funding for electric buses here, but through the Bus to Grid initiative that we helped start, we were able to get an electric school bus for Hollis Consolidated School District and Pekin. And since then, we submitted DARA applications to try and get funding for electric school buses in 2020 and 2021. And we continued to look for ways to fund the project. Next slide. February 2020, we planted empty conduit as part of our solar installation to position ourselves for microgrid project completion, and just kept looking for money. Next slide, please. In July 2020, we had electrical infrastructure upgrades as part of an HVAC project. We did that again with full fleet electrification in mind, and this microgrid concept that the kids started with again at the forefront. So really proud that we had the electrical infrastructure at that time, July 2020, at least at the panel level. We just had to wait till money came through to finish the project, but we can't wait to turn that switch from off to on. Next slide, please. In August 2020, our single axis 204 kilowatt solar array went live. Next slide. We continued planning for full fleet electrification using a vehicle to grid approach to support our clean energy production on campus. There's one thing that became very apparent to us. We're a small pre-K community or school district with about 300 kids in central Illinois. The air that we breathe, we're very fortunate in the community, in the area that our kids live. We have very high air quality. That said, our electricity by and large is produced, it was produced at the Edwards coal-fired power plant until it shut down, and now production is mainly comes from the Powerton coal-fired power plant. So as we started thinking about school bus electrification, if we didn't do this in a way, utilizing vehicle-to-grid technology that supported renewable energy expansion, we were just burning more coal in the Peoria-Pekin area to fuel our buses. So we're really proud of the approach that we're taking as we electrify. Next slide, please. We fine-tuned the design of our electric bus barn. We determined that fully electric bus fleet will consume about 100,000 of kilowatt hours of electricity per year. Next slide, please. We developed a total cost of ownership calculator based upon other calculators that are out there. This is publicly available too. Is if you get the slide deck and you click on the link at the top, you can make a copy of this spreadsheet and enter your own local data to see what type of funding you would need to reach price parity with a diesel school bus if that is your goal. Next slide, please. We determined through that total cost of ownership calculator that we need about $217,000 in funding per bus to reach price parity with diesel. We were very, very fortunate that by the end of this last October, 2022, we were awarded $2.6 million for 7 new electric school buses and charging stations. We received ESSER 3 grant approval to purchase 1 repowered electric school bus, and we received a $50,000 ISB school maintenance grant to help us with infrastructure costs. So in the picture, I think Lori's Lucy. I'm not sure between Eric and I which one of us is Snoopy. Next slide, please. You can see with this, so it's 100,000 additional kilowatt hours of electricity that we plan to consume in exchange for not burning diesel fuel in those buses. So we partnered with IEC Powered by Future Green to design and install additional roof mount solar array that can meet our expanded needs. Within that design, we also have plans to install public facing charge stations, which we already have the charge stations. We're just in the middle of building the infrastructure out. Those will be in our student lot and our staff lot. Just one more reason to come to or work for Williamsfield Schools. Next slide, please. You can see that sometime this summer we're going to reach 1 gig of energy produced since our array went live. So that's extremely significant. I equate it to when's the best time to start to put in a solar array is just like when's the best time to plant a tree, 10 years ago or today. Next slide, please. You'll see from an energy cost standpoint, Mia mentioned that we have experienced 26% savings overall since the array went live. This fiscal year only, we anticipate 36% in savings. In next fiscal year, when our fleet turns electric, we anticipate 61% energy savings as we exchange the cost of diesel fuel for the low cost of electricity due to our power purchase agreements with the solar installs that we have. I can't emphasize enough, I think Haj Young might be on the line. IEC Powered by Future Green has been a tremendous partner and has been very integral in helping us realize these savings. One of the key things we've done is lock in a price per kilowatt hour for electricity that is being produced by our solar arrays on site. Next slide, please. One more thing to know, we estimate that 10% of our transportation expenditures is bus fuel. That's going to drop considerably as our fleet fully electrifies, knock on wood, August 1st of this year. And, we can't wait to have one of our kids turn that switch on when those buses arrive this summer. Next slide. So again, any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, throw something in the chat for me, Eric, or Lori. The only words of wisdom that I'll give beyond this or continue to emphasize, get your kids involved. That's where ours started. The kids, you'll find a lot of kids passionate in this area. and they can really help your community move projects like this forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim and Lori and Eric as well. I think we're really excited to get to the question and answer part so that schools can ask you what your experience was. And I think it's really helpful and inspiring just to kind of see what the process looked like. So yeah, we really appreciate that. I'm going to hand it over to Haj, who Tim kind of already introduced. He is on the line for IEC powered by Future Green. Haj works directly with school districts like Williamsfield to help them think about decarbonization and solar. And so he's a great resource. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Haj.
Thanks, Mia. Okay, everyone, my name is Haj Young, and I'm sorry my video isn't working, but hopefully you can hear me okay. If you can't, just throw it in the chat and I will speak up. But I am the managing director of the IEC Powered by Future Green. And really, in this slide kind of tells a lot of what our story is. We help school districts save money on their energy costs. And so in a nutshell, we are all things energy for all school districts across the state. And as I go through my presentation, you'll sort of understand the significance of that. So let's just go to the next slide, please.
Oops, sorry, 1 second. I accidentally brought myself to the website.
So I'll keep talking while you're doing that.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. So the IEC Powered by Future Green is really two entities that came together. We have been around, everyone. We have been around for over 20 years, our organization has. The IEC stands for the Illinois Energy Consortium. They were formulated by the Illinois Association of School Administrators, the Illinois Association of School Business Officials, and the Illinois Association of School Boards, way back in 1999, when the industry deregulated. And so the idea was that all the associations that the schools depend on came together to protect them. At the time, the market deregulated, and all these brokers were flooding the market trying to get the school district's business. They built the IEC to protect the school districts and get them the best price from any of the brokers so that the school districts would not get swindled by all of the new entrants in the marketplace. And so these three organizations have been protecting school districts since 1999, giving them lower rates on their traditional power solutions. Fast forward to 2016, 2017, when the FEJA bill passed, that's the Future Energy Jobs Act. That was when the Future Green Energy Consortium was created. We can just stay on this slide right here for now. Future Green was, again, created by the associations you see here in the bottom right of the screen, the Illinois Association of School Boards, the Illinois Association of School Administrators, and school business officials. Came together once again to protect school districts because they knew that there would be a lot of interest in the marketplace and a lot of competition coming in, a lot of companies coming in basically to try to get school districts to do business with them. So Future Green was created to help school districts transition to renewable energy solutions and get the best price there. So Ecology is the program manager for both the IEC and Future Green, and they really help the associations manage the program and ensure we're bringing the best in class for the school districts. Next slide. And so you'll see here, this talks about the merger of the IEC and Future Green. So you may hear me say Future Green a bunch, but I'm really talking about the IEC Powered by Future Green. And when the two entities merged, this gave the school districts tremendous power. We don't have all the school districts in the states. We have about 230 or so. However, if your school is not part of the IEC Powered by Future Green, and if your school district is not a part of the IEC Powered by Future Green, you should very seriously consider joining, because what we do is we use the aggregate load and the aggregate power of the school districts to drive down costs and increase savings for the member districts. So we take sort of a consortium-based approach and use economies of scale to drive down the cost that the school districts will pay. So you can think about it as stronger together, the more volume you have, the more discounts you can request of brokers and of renewable energy suppliers, whether they be for buses, solar, or storage, and you can get much better prices than your school or your school district could get on its own. Next slide, please. And so here we start to get into what some of the services are that we offer. Again, we never want to push school districts to do something that they're not ready to do. However, we want to give you all the information so that when you're ready, you are informed and you are armed to the teeth with all the information you need to get the best deal. We meet school districts where they are. So we start with their current supply contracts, both on natural gas and electricity. Everyone has a contract for both. And we come and look at where you are and where your school district is, and we try to save you money first there. So we can typically save a school district 5 to 15% just by figuring out who their supplier is and putting them with one of our suppliers who give us favorable rates, everyone, because we work with school districts. So before you even enter the renewables realm, contact us to find out if we can get you a better deal on your current supply contract. That's only a part of the solution. The other part of it is moving you over to renewable energy options, including solar, storage, and electric school buses. So we found that when we help school districts move toward a solar solution, we can save school districts anywhere from 30 to 60% out of your energy budget. You may or may not know that behind salaries, electricity is the next biggest expense in your budget. And so what we do here at the IEC Powered by Future Green is we are very passionate about what we do. We're very passionate about helping school districts and about helping kids. We ask the school districts that save money on their power costs, put that money back into programming to hire new teachers, to put in technology programs for students, to hire counselors. All the money that we save for school districts can be used discretionary by the school district for whatever they want. And so we do a no cost, no obligation assessment. We never charge school districts any upfront money for our services. Again, we never charge school districts any money for our services upfront. We will come in and do a no cost assessment of what your district looks like and where you want to go with solar. And we will let you know how much money you save. And we would do it under a power purchase agreement or an ownership model. And we have the PPA option gives you what we think is the best value because you don't have to worry about any of the upfront costs of the panels, the inverters, the modules, and you don't have to worry about any of the ongoing costs, which can be quite significant. The operations, the maintenance, and the insurance. That's all covered by us should you choose a PPA option. In addition, again, you get the volume discounts by going with the PPA because we can aggregate that purchasing power for everyone who's in the consortium. If you do it a go it alone option, we will still help you build your project. However, the volume discounts won't be there as part of the consortium-based model. Next slide, please. This just goes into more of our offering on renewables. Again, we've saved millions of dollars for school districts. It's so critical to think about who is out there doing the kind of work that we are doing. There's really no one else. We can get better pricing than anyone else who's in the marketplace because again, the volume that we have in our consortium lends itself to get a better deal than any school district could get on their own. So whether they're procuring, panels, inverters, standalone storage, or electric vehicles, we get the best prices in the marketplace. We have also announced strategic partnerships, and you heard from Tim Forker. He and I work very closely together. We're an integral part of their build at Williamsfield and many others. We've worked with all the bus manufacturers, all the charging manufacturers, all the infrastructure manufacturers. We're agnostic. But we work with them to get favorable pricing such that if you go and you procure your electric vehicles or your electric buses through the IEC Powered by Future Green, you can also get those same volume discounts that you get on the solar and the standalone storage. Next slide, please. This just talks about the Bus to Grid initiative that the IEC Powered by Future Green puts out there for school districts. Tim Forker and myself head that initiative up. Next slide. We also put on educational seminars for the community, and anyone can be a part of these, but we target them towards school districts and administrators. Certainly students, anyone else who's interested could join. But when we started to get the clean school bus rebate money from the EPA, and also with the Department of Transportation and the Department of Energy putting out funds, we wanted to be sure that school districts had access to those funds and knew about the opportunities. And so we put on webinars to teach them about going green, about electric school buses, and about how to make the finances work. So this is what we did back in June of last year. Next slide. We then followed that up with how to get the money, right? The next month, in July of last year, we gave a follow-on webinar talking about, how to get the buses, what the benefits of going electric were, and then how to capitalize those projects. We do help you with your, applications for grants and for rebates, and we help school districts get funding. And then if there's a match, the IEC powered by Future Green will help you cover that match and put the cost into a long-term PPA so that it spreads it out over the long term and it's not a big hit to your budgets. Next slide, please. Again, this is just some resources that we give out to those who signed up for the webinar. We don't just inundate you with a bunch of talking and a bunch of points, but we also send you resources to help you then go and research the opportunities for yourself and better digest them. Next slide, please. And so this just speaks to the breadth of our product offering. Electrification of your fleets. We do solar, we do storage. We want to make sure that once the industry gets to the point where you can earn revenue from selling the excess capacity in your batteries, we want the school districts to participate in that revenue. Again, come and talk to us so that we can hook you up with a solution that allows you to do that. A lot of companies have been flooding the market to get your business, and they don't necessarily put you in a position to be able to earn revenue from your bus batteries. For example, if you sub out or if you contract out this service, you may lose that ability to have revenue come back to your district. Again, putting more money in the school district's pockets to do much more in the way of programming, again, to help students. Just again, on the fact that we support open source charging protocols, we want all equipment to integrate together. We don't want to force anyone to a preferred vendor. We work with everyone, all OEMs. We work very closely with utilities and the co-ops to make sure that all school districts in every part of the state, urban, suburban, rural, large, small, can participate and win and benefit from the services that we offer. Next slide, please. This is just more about everything I've discussed, how we do our structures, the fact that we are a nonprofit and we're committed to Illinois school districts. We work for you. Next slide, please. And that's really it. If you want to learn more, you can, it says call, but you can either call myself or Kyle. You can also send us an email or go to our website and just hit the contact us button, fill out the form, and we will reach out to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Haj. That's really helpful. I think it's really great to be able to hear from the folks who helped Williamsfield kind of navigate the solar and energy efficiency process. And it's good to hear about those resources that are available for public schools in Illinois. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Olivia Youngblood, who I've had the pleasure of working with as she has developed the public schools carbon-free assessment program for ComEd. She works for Michael's Energy, which is the energy firm that's responsible for developing this program. And she's going to tell you a little bit about how your school can get a free energy audit if you live in the Northern Illinois ComEd area.
Thank you, Mia. We can go to the next slide. As Mia said, I am the program implementer for ComEd's Public Schools Carbon-Free Assessment. We'll go into the program introduction and the enrollment journey, program benefits, assessment process, and the report preview, and then a little bit of a summary. The carbon-free assessment is no cost to schools. We launched September 15th of 2022. We've already completed about 47 assessments to date, and we already have about 30 assessments scheduled for this year. So we are just getting a lot of participation already in the program. Next slide. So the assessment, what we offer, it includes a breakdown of, we are looking at your EV opportunities. We'll look at your bus fleet, your facility vehicles. Also, we have been looking at your driver ed vehicles as well. We also will be looking at your electrification opportunities, where we'll look at your heating and cooling, how we can electrify them, as well as looking at your kitchen equipment. So those are some of the areas that we focus on. Solar opportunities, we've worked with some schools where we've looked at roofing, ground, and also carports. We want to make sure that we are providing you the best benefit for your school. We do a cost analysis, we provide you the incentives as well as grant and funding opportunities. We also look at building envelope, insulation opportunities about piping, roofing, weather stripping for your schools. And then also we have introduced the WELL certification. It's sort of a new certification out there. You're probably familiar with maybe Energy Star building certification or LEED certification. This is sort of similar, but it also looks at the experience of the actual participants in the actual building. We offer two different types of WELL certification. We have a bronze level, which is more of a more detailed certification. It's going to be more like the Energy Star LEED certification. And then we also offer a WELL in health and safety. This one isn't as intense or is not as detailed. It focuses on sanitation and also like emergency plans, where we've learned that sometimes schools focus a lot more of their policies and procedures. The WELL Bronze, to meet those certifications, it's a little bit more intense and a little bit more costly. So we wanted to provide two different options for schools, just because, some people might not have the resources and so on. So we want to provide both opportunities. Also, another thing that we provide on here that we don't have is we still will provide you energy efficiency measures as well. We've had schools, we try to be very flexible. We'll have schools that ask us, we're looking at lighting, and we'll make sure to really do a very detailed analysis of their lighting. If they're looking for outdoor lighting or gym lighting, we'll make sure to look at those for them. Next slide. All right, so some of the benefits of our assessment is that it's a comprehensive plan that you can utilize in multiple ways. It's very flexible. It's mapping out a future for you to become carbon free and also improve your infrastructure as well. We look at future projects, grants, and certifications as well. And one thing that we map out is low hanging fruit projects, ones that your payback will be less than 2 years. We'll provide you the projects that might take 5 to 7 years, and some of those longer projects as well. We do a cost analysis, we provide the incentives, and also the average payback. We also will look at your energy usage and how you can improve that. Another thing is, our goal is to see how to reduce your carbon emissions opportunities as well. And of course, the well-being of the students with the WELL certification. And like I said, we do a cost analysis, and we also provide you information about grants and funding. Next slide, please. So right now, to request an assessment, like I said, they are no cost, free to any ComEd public school customer. You can request it through myself. We have online on our website, we have an email, or you can just contact our customer support team. And then the next process would be is that we do a little introduction with our engineer. We usually will have an engineer lead that would work with your district primarily. And then we just need, you know, a couple of things up front. It could be information about your bus fleet. It could be information. We have a little questionnaire about the well certification that takes about 20 or 30 minutes. And we might ask you about your current usage, your utilities usage. So it's not very overbearing. It's just small things that will really help us when we walk through your school. Now the school, depending on the size, these assessments, we're looking at a lot of different measures. So it does take about 5 to 8 hours. We're pretty flexible. We've done assessments on holidays. We already have one school for spring break. We have multiple engineers, so don't worry about that. But you know, people are, you know, we did a couple over the winter break as well, and then some that we walked during school hours. So we just want to let you know that we're fairly flexible. We want to make sure that it works for each school district. After we do the assessment, it's about a 30-day window of where we analyze all the data. And then after that, we would create a meeting with the school district, and we do a high-level presentation for you, and we provide you all the information as a total as a district. And then we'll provide you reports on every individual school. So you can go through that information on every individual school as well. Great. Next, please. And this is sort of a preview of our report. As you can see here, the executive summary, we go through annual savings. We go through, you know, what your potential incentives are, you know, what your annual energy benefits would be. And then also our solar opportunities. We look at the project cost. We also provide an estimate of incentives out there, and we also provide, you know, some grant opportunities. And we also have a well certification, and it just goes through all the different lists and different segments of the well certification. Next, please. Okay, and then also we'll provide you, you know, energy electrification, what opportunities there to transition some of your other equipment to electric. Is also the building envelope that I talked about a little bit earlier about mechanical insulation, improvements of insulating your piping, and of course your EV measures as well. What would it take to transition to an, you know, a EV bus, or even like I said, your driver's ed vehicles. We also know that once you're transitioning a lot of your energy to electrification, you know, we provide you a cost analysis on, you know, increasing your load. And as well as we provide information about, you know, funding opportunities. So then we have a list there and a little bit of a segment or summary of each grant out there that you could apply for. Okay. All right, so just a summary is that, you know, it's no cost to any school. It's a free assessment. The scheduling is flexible. We want to make sure that, you know, you're benefiting the most out of it. You know, it's a plan, it's a map for you to use and utilize for, you know, opportunities to apply for incentives, also to apply for grants. And like I said, we have funding opportunities. We provide you information about different grants that are out there that you can apply for as well. And there is our contact information. Like I said, you can contact myself. You can go through customer support or go through our website. We will contact you within 24 to 48 hours. After we do the assessment, we usually will schedule the meeting about 35 to 30 days after the assessment's completed. And like I said, we've worked it out with some customers where we are doing, you know, 2 at a time a week, or once a week, or 1 a week. And then of course, you know, we've also offered going on weekends. And also, you know, our engineers are have gone through a couple of different assessments, so they're very knowledgeable on the carbon-free assessment program. Thank you very much. And you can just go through that. There's some FAQs there, but thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Olivia. I am going to hand it over to Michael Pittman, who is the director of the Public Schools Carbon-Free Assessment Program at Ameren, Illinois. Michael is also really awesome to work with and has been a great partner for me personally, as we have been trying to connect schools to some of these programs and help educate schools. So I'm going to hand it over to him. And after that, we will hand it back over to Carolyn to talk a little bit about how you can get involved.
Yeah, hey, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, wanted to make sure. Yeah, we'll go ahead and dive right in. We can go to the next slide. I'll just start with a quick introduction of my team, program status update, a little highlights of our East St. Louis pilot assessment that we have completed, and follow up with some contact information. You want to go to the next slide. Right now, the team's me. So Michael Pittman, I've worked for Ameren, Illinois for 3 years, worked in energy efficiency in the regulatory implementation and strategy. I'm really excited about this program. When I was looking at legislation in 2021 and everything was coming to pass, this was a part that I was excited to examine. It was a part that I thought would be great for schools. And I lobbied really hard to get the manager position to run this program because I see all the benefits that it offers. So we can go to the next slide. We worked our program in a little bit of a different path than ComEd did. One of the requirements of the CEJA legislation was that we had to finish the East St. Louis School District's audit by December 31st of 2022. So we worked from the passage of CEJA until last May to kind of design what our program was going to look like. Starting in May, we started working towards the pilot program implementation. We did finish the assessment for East St. Louis and get it delivered to them. We're currently in a mode where we're designing our full program, going out to a solicitation here, probably near the end of first quarter. And we will be going into program implementation for our full program. We target fourth quarter of this year. We're going to do anything we can to speed that timeline up and be out in the schools and assisting them sooner than that. If we can go to the next slide, we'll talk about the East St. Louis pilot program that we did. So we completed the entire assessment for the East St. Louis School District. We looked at 15 buildings and 1 athletic facility for them. Some highlights of this is through the assessment, we've identified 4,400 metric tons of carbon reduction that could be achieved through implementing all of the measures. We looked at, the district does not own their school buses. So we looked at their driver's ed fleet, their maintenance fleet, all of the district vehicles. We put them towards a path that can electrify all 22 vehicles through a central electric vehicle charging depot located at their administration building. Through the solar potential study that we did, we identified that the East St. Louis School District does have the potential to achieve net zero if all solar installations were to take place. Actually, due to the size of the district and the land that they own, based on roof mounted and ground-based solar, they actually could well exceed the energy needs of the district. We also did the well certification similar to what ComEd is doing. We were able to identify 19 measures that can improve health and safety of students across the district. And then we start talking about some of the savings. When we looked at the building envelope and the mechanical insulation, we identified $22,000 in annual savings that would be available. A lot of that with the low-hanging fruit, like Olivia spoke up, stuff that would have very quick payback and provide almost immediate dividends to the school. We also identified over $500,000 a year in annual energy savings from the energy efficiency opportunities. We did similar to the ComEd. We looked at short payback, inexpensive measures. We also looked at longer term measures, and then the really big measures for their bigger schools. We're going to work with the school district to implement an energy efficiency implementation plan. We have a very robust energy efficiency program, and there will be a referral to that program with a copy of the assessment so that they can begin working this year with the energy efficiency team to start implementing some of those measures and taking advantage of incentives that Ameren is already able to offer. And so we're really excited about the way this assessment turned out. It really helped feed information that is really going to make our program stronger as we go along and implement it for the rest of the schools that are in our territory. We can go to the next slide. Like I said on a previous slide, we are hoping to be out and doing assessments in schools later this year, but we are seeking at this time to go ahead and build our pipeline and start planning for getting assessments done for the schools. So any school districts that are interested in or in Ameren service territory, they can reach out to me directly, and that is my email address. I hope the slide deck will be shared. If not, I can drop it into the chat for everyone.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Michael. We really appreciate that. The slides
Yep.
will definitely be shared. And I will hand it over to Carolyn because this is her slide.
Yeah, thanks so much, Michael. And thank you everyone for joining us. If you're like me, you might be feeling a little bit, excited about all the opportunities available to schools, but also overwhelmed by all the info and not sure what the best first step to take is. So we can tell you what the best first step to take is, which is to fill out another Google form to let us know if you are interested in working on this and working to make your school district take advantage of these opportunities. A lot of times, as you can see, these are really good for school districts, also really good for the world, for the environment, for our health, et cetera. But as you might know, school administrators have a lot on their hands, and just having a community member like you meet with a school administrator and say, hey, there's a bunch of benefits. I'd like you to take advantage of these. Having some community advocacy can really help facilitate this process and help kind of give school districts that activation energy they need to start taking advantage of these opportunities. So if you are interested in doing that and helping advocate to make sure your school district can get solar, can get an energy assessment, can get electric school buses, et cetera, please fill out this Google form. I believe we're putting it in the chat right now. Yes, Emily put it in the chat. Thank you, Emily. If you fill it out, what's going to happen is Mia is going to be reaching out to you, and she'll be there to work with you, to help support you, to think about what steps to take, who from this call might be best for you to talk to, for your school district to talk to, et cetera. And then also, if you want to reach out to Mia, I put her email here as well. And then want to recognize there are folks from a ton of different organizations on this call. Huge shout out to all the organizations who helped recruit. If you're from an organization and also just want to reach out to the staff person that you know or that you're used to working with, feel free to reach out to us. Sierra Club folks, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to work with you on these things. I'll also probably loop in Mia and others for things I'm, less knowledgeable about. Mia is working on this full time, and so she's a really great resource, as are all our presenters. And then once again, here's the list of presenters and their contact information. And that is the end of our slideshow. So I can stop screen sharing, and I'm going to pass it back to Mia, who is going to lead a question and answer.
Perfect. I think Emily was going to help me identify some questions in the chat that might be good. I can maybe just take a minute here just to take a look and see which ones have been answered. I know we had a lot of questions early on about electric school buses in school districts that do not own their own fleet. I know, yes, okay, first, this is the first question that Emily flagged for us, which is awesome. So in that scenario, there are two programs, right? There's the state program that ComEd and Ameren are working on developing. We don't know the details of what that's going to look like yet. So I can't speak to that, but for the federal program, these clean school bus rebates, that may be a grant next time around, you can apply for those still if you do not own your school buses. It does require a lot of coordination with your school bus contractor. You will have to get a lot of detailed information, including the mileage of the diesel buses and their VIN numbers and that kind of stuff. And so I actually worked with East St. Louis School District on their application. They did not get funding, but they had a great relationship with their school bus contracting company and were able to submit that application. And I believe they're looking at submitting again if the grant opportunity is available again. So that's definitely something you can do, but just know that it is a little bit more complicated, that process. Okay, the next question is about the towns in Illinois that do not get their power from ComEd or from Ameren. So most of these programs are tied to the utility companies. So if you are in a situation where you're getting your power and your school district is getting their power from a municipal utility or a co-op or some other arrangement, you may not be available or you may not be eligible for these exact programs. But there are other ways. I think someone in the chat flagged the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center at UIUC. They provide energy efficiency audits for school districts, I think for a very small fee. And I would be happy to work with schools. We've had other schools in situations like that where they want to pursue these green initiatives, but they don't know how to get started because they're in that weird situation. So if that's you, definitely feel free to email me and I can try and connect you with some resources.
And from the slide you presented, it looks like to get the energy audit from the utilities, you need to be a utility customer. But my sense was the solar and the electric school bus, that's sort of, you can apply for either way, right?
Yes, the solar is any school district, actually any homeowner or commercial building or school district in Illinois can participate in the Illinois Shines program, which gives you those financial incentives. And then for the electric school buses, the federal program is any school district in the US.
Hi, Mia. I could probably answer that question. I believe in 2024, we can start offering our assessments to people that aren't ComEd customers. But it unfortunately wouldn't be a no cost assessment. But I can get you more information going forward. But I think it's 2024, we can start offering to outside of our customer base.
That's awesome. That's super helpful. And also any of the presenters, you all do this for a living and are really involved in all of this. So if you want to chime in on questions, maybe I can direct some of them to you as well.
Yeah, I'll chime in just on the solar and electric school buses. So you all may or may not know this, but the IEC Powered by Future Green was instrumental in getting the renewable energy credits set aside for public schools across the state. What we found when the FEJA bill passed, there were renewable energy credits and there were some available for school districts, but many of them, when the Adjustable Block Program opened, they got snatched up by the private sector. A lot of the public schools got nothing. And so we fought and we advocated and we got a lobbyist to go out and get our own renewable energy credits set aside for public schools, such that any school district in the state, whether you're in a co-op, muni ag, ComEd or Ameren, can build using those credits. And you want to, because there's a lot of other entities out there that are not happy that we have our own set aside of renewable energy credits. Contact us. We will be happy to get you started and point you in the right direction if we cannot help you. But we usually have all the answers as far as anything energy for school districts.
Yeah, that's a great point, Haj. And actually, I would say that I think all of the organizations who helped to bring this together worked really closely with Future Green and all of the other folks who were at the table to make sure that schools were prioritized for those renewable energy credits. Because just like Haj said, right, it was developers and companies that were able to take advantage of those incentives. And we really want to make sure that schools and communities can use them as well. Okay. So I think we have some other questions here. We're not going to get to everything, but I'm available to stay on until 6:30 to answer questions, and anything that we don't get, we can definitely follow up on email as well. Okay, let me scroll back here a minute. You guys are really patient. Okay, are the tax credits available to charter schools? So if your charter school is organized as a nonprofit, which a lot of them are, my understanding is that you would be eligible to take advantage of the direct pay tax credit, right? That 30% of your solar investment, because nonprofits are now allowed to take that tax credit just like a public school district would. So things are a little bit different with charter schools. Sometimes they're organized as a district, sometimes they're individual schools. Again, that's something that would be sort of on an individual basis, but I believe you would be eligible for a lot of these programs. You may have to kind of talk with ComEd and Ameren about how it applies to public schools and if you're eligible for some of those programs. But the federal tax credit for solar, I believe, does count for charters as well, which is good because there are a lot of charter schools, especially in Chicago. Okay. Contracted school buses, how does that work in terms of how many of the contractors' buses are eligible for electrification? I actually don't know the answer to that. I don't know if anybody, Haj or anybody else who has a little more experience with that, if you have an answer or if that's something we should kind of research and get back to you on.
So Tim, who leads up our Bus the Grid initiative, would have that answer. I'm not sure if he's still on. Okay, I'll work
I
with Tim.
apologize. I missed the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll repeat. So the question is that for schools that contract out their school bus services, but they're interested in electric vehicles, what does that process look like? And how many buses would be eligible for electrification?
With regards to, I think I posted a little bit of something in the chat to that. With regards to the EPA funding, the fall round of rebates, the max per applicant allowed was, as far as the request goes, was 25 buses. For school districts in Lindell-Schuster applied, I believe River Trails applied for it, and they have a third-party contractor. But the key is communicating with your third-party contractor. For those that studied it in the fall and felt like it was out of their reach because there were certain stipulations, for example, the 5-year mandatory timeline, the new electric school bus that the fall EPA round of money will go towards has a 5-year timeline that you have to operate that bus in that specific school district. My understanding in conversations with the EPA is the language of that will change in future rounds. So don't close your door to these opportunities, even if you studied it in the fall and found barriers. In my experience, there were barriers that could be removed, from the fall, and I anticipate future rounds to be even more favorable to those that contract.
Awesome. That's really helpful because I think in the school districts that I've talked to, that was something that schools were concerned about if they contracted out for buses. So that's really great to hear. The next question is there any easy way to find out whether your school district is part of IEC powered by Future Green? And that would be for Haj.
Yeah, just shoot me an email and I will check it out for you.
Perfect. Okay. If schools receive if schools receive a carbon-free assessment from another agency, such as CDAC or an ESCO company, can ComEd or Ameren rebate that incentive? Like, could they be reimbursed for that? Or do the assessments have to be through the utility company? And I believe this came up during Olivia's section. So I will hand it over to Olivia and Michael maybe to answer respectively.
Yes, you can still apply for incentives and rebates through ComEd, even if you didn't receive an an assessment. There is one grant that should be launching soon called the Construction Law Grant, relaunching. That one is to qualify, you have to have an assessment for that grant or a scheduled assessment before the grant launches. We'll have more information about that. There's not a lot of information currently, but you can apply for rebates, yes.
Awesome. Michael, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was going to say I can confirm. EE rebates, any rebates that are available through Ameren will be available if the assessment is not done through Ameren.
Awesome. Okay. I think that is all of the outstanding questions in the chat. If anyone else has any other questions, I know we can stay on for a little bit longer. I believe we set the Zoom to go to 6:30. This is a great opportunity to connect with folks who know more about this than most of us do. So.
Can I add a message from Lori real quick? Lori had to step out and coach a volleyball game right now. An emphasis of Lori's, and she's been instrumental in our district as far as leading this charge with our students and having our students drive. When we first started looking at solar, and again, this was a few years ago, so it's gained some popularity in the years since. But our students visited a neighboring community town hall event where they were they were pursuing a solar install, and it was an event that went south very quickly. And our students learned a lot from that. And what we learned as a group that Lori mentioned is if your students can drive this and our students ended up hosting the town halls. Our students went door to door and talked to community members, especially the ones that lived near where the solar array was going to be installed. If your students can drive this just from a genuine place of, wanting to do good by their community and set their community up for success, the resistance seems to be much less. In the neighboring community, there was a company that came in and ran the town hall, the company that is going to profit from the installation. Here it was the opposite. Even though it was the same company at that time we were working with, our kids were the ones that ran the town hall. Our kids were the ones that answered all the community's questions. So get your kids, get the youth in your communities involved. I think that can go a long way.
I think that's a really great note. And I think it's really interesting, especially in the case of Williamsfield, that this idea came from students. I love that. And I love that, like personally working in a coalition of unions that includes teachers unions, like I love that students are involved in this. I love that teachers are involved in this. And I think that's a great way to kind of frame the investment in the schools. Okay, we have a couple of other questions. For a list of schools that are solarized, I will put website is the word I'm looking for, a website in the chat from the Illinois Clean Energy Community Foundation. That is where I pulled that map of schools. Again, some of those are going to be smaller kind of educational sort of arrays, but it does include every school district in the state that has invested in solar. And then I also see from Verena Owen, planning to talk to your school board soon. What are some first steps for them to take, grant applications that are available, etc. I think the first step to take, in my opinion, and I can open this up to other folks on the panel, would be to get that free energy audit, because it will give you an opportunity to think through some of the opportunities. I think kind of like Williamsfield did, identifying places where they could save energy, where they could decarbonize, and where they could invest in renewable energy. That's what I would recommend, but I'll open it up if other folks have opinions as well.
Yeah, I think it should be a sort of faceted approach in concert. You should contact the utilities for your energy audit, but you should also follow Tim's example and get your students involved and have something that they would present, right? Maybe a portion they present to the board alongside of you, and then talk to the IC Popular Future Green to get yourself a no-cost assessment on the solar and electric school bus side, so you can sort of do all that together, which I think will have the biggest impact.
For those looking to talk to their school boards, maybe, I mean, you could, depending on the makeup of your board, you could hit them with the finances. You know, there are a lot of school districts throughout the state that are saving 20 to 30% on their electric bills just by working with IEC Powered by Future Green and doing a solar install. With regards to electric school buses, the federal funding opportunities are never going to be like this again. So regardless of your community's feelings on electric vehicles or fleet or electrification, we're replacing our fleet this year. And the opportunity for us to get 7 new buses all at once would never happen in our community. And as a caveat, we're saving 10% of our annual budget by eliminating the cost of diesel fuel.
I think that's all really great advice and a lot of good practical steps for schools to take. I got another question directly about how to engage students in curriculum around climate-friendly behaviors and solutions. This is something that I can speak to a little bit, but again, I think other folks on the call probably also have good thoughts on. So part of our labor coalition is working with the Illinois Federation of Teachers and the Illinois Education Association. And I know that they have both expressed willingness to work with local school districts and work with teachers to help develop curriculum around climate issues, because this is something that we hear a lot from teachers that they're excited about. And I think there's a lot of really great opportunities with solar and energy efficiency to engage students. I've heard of, teachers having their students calculate how many metric tons of carbon are being saved. And what does that mean in terms of, trees being planted or cars being taken off the road? I think there's a lot of great STEM opportunities. And it's a really great way to kind of build that sustainability mentality in the classroom and really get students involved as well. But I'll pass it off to other folks if they have additional thoughts.
We do have some resources that we include in all of our solar proposals for teachers. I think that, what's really interesting is that whenever we go out to present to schools, and this goes back a little bit to what Tim was saying, we find that the kids are really excited and really jazzed up about solar and about electric school buses. And when you start talking to administrators and others, they're like, oh, what's the catch? Or why isn't this, why you're saying all this? So how's this really going to work? And so we like to give as many resources as we can to school districts when we present. And so if you give us a call, we can present you with some of those same resources.
Yeah, I think that's great. There's also another question in the chat about PPAs versus ownership. I think this is something that's really changed over the last year as those federal rebates have become available for public schools. And so I think that's something, again, I don't sell solar and we want you to make the best decision for your school district, but that's definitely something to consider. And I would definitely, agree that you should look at all of the solar financing options that are available, whether it's a PPA or direct ownership, so that you're making the decision that makes the most sense for you and your school district. And again, always taking advantage of the state incentives through the solar renewable energy credits that Haj and other folks have talked about, and also through any rebates that are available through your utility company. Okay, I see some additional resources being shared in the chat. Does anyone else have any other good questions? Any kind of last thoughts, Carolyn? I think we're getting towards the end of time here. I really appreciate everyone kind of taking some time to really think about what this means for their community and ask some really thoughtful questions about how their school could get involved.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. We will be sending out a recording and the slideshow and folks' contact info, as well as the sign up form if you are interested in continuing this work and starting to advocate to have your school district take action on this. Oh, we have a question from Verena. Can we have a handout for our meetings with contact info to leave behind?
So yes, that is something I would be happy to help folks with. I think Verena, you and I have actually connected. But yes, I would be happy to put together a handout. I have kind of a one-pager on some of these programs. Yes, we have. Okay, I knew that your name sounded familiar. I have a one-pager on some of these programs that I'd be happy to share with folks. And it does include my contact information, but you could change it to include yours as well. As far as research supporting green schools and health, I do know that there are resources out there available. I don't have citations off the top of my head, but I have them shared in a document that I'd be happy to send around as well. Sports greenhouse, yes. So I mean, the gist of it is a lot of it is related to indoor air quality, and also decreased exposure to diesel fumes for students, and also for bus drivers and for teachers who are on bus duty. And so there is research to support decrease in student absences, lowered asthma rates, that kind of stuff. And then additionally, because a lot of the energy efficiency work around HVAC leads to better indoor building temperatures. There's research to show that students who are not learning in like freezing temperatures or boiling temperatures do better on test scores. So I can share those citations as well.
Great. Huge thank you to all our presenters, and huge thank you to all of you for joining us. Excited to see all of the work that we get done.